Patricia was not just beautiful, she was breathtakingly gorgeous. Her beauty was the talk of the town, drawing the eyes and admiration of everyone who saw her. Her radiant smile, flawless skin, and enchanting eyes made her the desire of countless men. As Patricia's beauty blossomed, so did her confidence. She knew the power she held over men and wielded it with ease. Patricia was never without attention. Wherever she went, men followed, hoping to win her favor. The wealthiest and most influential big boys of the city sought her out, each trying to outdo the other in lavishing her with gifts, attention, and promises of a luxurious life. Patricia reveled in the attention. She was always seen in the company of different men, today dining in the most expensive restaurants, the next day sipping champagne in exclusive bars. Nights were spent dancing in the most extravagant nightclubs, where the music played until the early hours of the morning. Her life was a whirlwind of parties, wealth, and pleasure, and she thrived in the midst of it. Though many of these men professed their love and offered her marriage, Patricia always declined. The idea of settling down seemed foreign to her, almost laughable. Marriage meant commitment, and commitment meant giving up the endless stream of admiration and luxury that she so enjoyed. She imagined the dullness that marriage might bring and how many of her suitors would fade away if she were to become a wife. Patricia loved her freedom too much to give it up for anyone, so she continued to live her life as she pleased, moving from one luxurious experience to the next, with different men by her side. Patricia believed that as long as she had her beauty, her life would remain as vibrant and exciting as it was. She was the queen of her world, and nothing could take that away from her, at least, that's what she thought. And so, Patricia kept enjoying her single life, never realizing that beauty, like all things, was fleeting, and that a time might come when she would have to face the choices she had once so easily dismissed. Patricia's life of luxury wasn't just about the attention and the glamorous outings, it was also about the wealth she amassed from the rich men who admired her. These men, eager to win her favor, showered her with money, gifts, and everything she could ever desire. Patricia was clever and knew how to make the most of this. She saved and invested, but she also indulged in the finer things in life, sparing no expense when it came to her appearance. Patricia would often find herself in the most exclusive boutiques in the city, where she spent her money on the latest fashions. Dresses of silk, satin, and velvet filled her wardrobe, each more beautiful than the last. She had a different outfit for every occasion, dresses for elegant dinners, cocktail parties, nightclubs, and more. Her shoe collection was enviable, with rows upon rows of designer heels in every color and style imaginable. Her obsession with beauty didn't stop at clothing. Patricia was also known for her collection of wigs and makeup. She spent small fortunes on the finest wigs made from the best human hair, each styled to perfection. Whether she wanted to be a blonde one day, a brunette the next, or sport a bold new color, she had a wig for every mood. Makeup was another passion of hers. Her vanity table was covered with luxury brands, each promising to enhance her already stunning features. Every week, Patricia made sure to visit the most expensive beauty salons and spas. There, she would pamper herself with the latest beauty treatments, facials, manicures, pedicures, massages, and anything else that could keep her looking as flawless as ever. She believed that maintaining her beauty was an investment, one that would keep the rich men flocking to her, ensuring that the flow of money and gifts never ceased. Patricia's life was a cycle of earning and spending, all centered around her looks and the lifestyle she adored. She believed that as long as she kept up her beauty, her life would continue in its luxurious, carefree manner. So, she spent her days shopping, her nights partying, and her life enjoying the endless attention of the wealthy men who couldn't resist her beauty. Little did Patricia realize that she was living on the edge of a dream that couldn't last forever. But for now, she was content, lost in the world she had created for herself, where beauty was her currency and luxury was her reward. As the years went by, Patricia's life remained a whirlwind of luxury and indulgence. She was still the center of attention, still admired by the wealthy men who flocked to her side. But something was changing, slowly and subtly. Her once youthful glow began to fade, replaced by the inevitable signs of aging. Lines formed at the corners of her eyes, her skin lost some of its elasticity, and her once vibrant hair began to thin, despite the expensive treatments and wigs she adorned. But Patricia, stubborn as ever, refused to acknowledge these changes. She had built her life around her beauty, and to admit that it was fading was unthinkable. She continued to live as she always had, frequenting the most exclusive boutiques, salons, and nightclubs. She bought even more expensive dresses, shoes, and makeup, trying to mask the signs of time. The rich men still came, but now, some of the newer faces were younger, less attentive. While some of the older men remained, their interest had subtly shifted from infatuation to polite admiration. But Patricia dismissed these changes as minor, confident that her beauty was still as potent as ever. She believed that as long as she kept up her lavish lifestyle and maintained her appearance, she could keep the world at her feet. Patricia's nights were still filled with the thrill of the nightlife, the glow of city lights. She was still surrounded by wealth, but the laughter wasn't as genuine, the compliments felt rehearsed, and the attention she once thrived on began to feel hollow. Despite these growing feelings, Patricia remained steadfast in her ways. The thought of marriage never crossed her mind seriously, even as the years continued to pass. She didn't want to lose the freedom she had cherished for so long, nor did she want to give up the luxurious life that had become her identity. The idea of settling down, of committing to one person, still seemed like a prison to her. But as Patricia grew older, the world around her began to change in ways she could no longer ignore. The younger women who now frequented the same places she did began to draw the attention she once commanded. They were the ones who received the admiring glances, the lavish gifts, and the marriage proposals. Patricia's once unshakable confidence began to waver, but she clung to her old life, unwilling to let go. Yet, the reality was undeniable. The rich men who once vied for her affection started to drift away, drawn to younger, fresher faces. Patricia found herself more and more alone, her once vibrant social life dimming as her age became impossible to ignore. She continued to spend her money on beauty treatments, expensive clothes, and nights out, trying to recapture the magic of her youth, but it was slipping through her fingers like sand. In her heart, Patricia knew that time had caught up with her, but she couldn't bear to admit it. She had spent her life avoiding commitment, thinking only of the present, and now the future loomed before her like an empty, unfamiliar road. The luxurious life she had lived so freely had come at a cost she never anticipated. And so, Patricia kept living as she always had, in denial of the passage of time, holding on to the remnants of her beauty and the life she had once ruled. But deep down, she was beginning to realize that the world she had built around herself was crumbling, and there was no going back. When Patricia turned 56 years, the reality she had long ignored finally caught up with her. The beauty she had once relied on had faded, and with it, the attention and adoration that had defined her life. Her once lustrous hair had thinned and turned grey, her skin was marked with wrinkles, and her body, once vibrant and full of life, was now frail and tired. The rich men who had once flocked to her side were gone, replaced by memories of a time when she was the center of their world. The lavish gifts, the luxurious dinners, the nights spent in the most exclusive clubs, all of it had disappeared. Now, her days were filled with silence and loneliness. The money she had once spent so freely was nearly gone, leaving her unable to maintain the lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. The expensive boutiques and salons that once welcomed her with open arms were now out of reach, and the clothes that once fit her perfectly hung loose on her aging frame. Patricia's home, once filled with laughter and the hum of activity, was now empty. The silence was overwhelming, a constant reminder of the life she had once lived and the choices she had made. With no husband, no children, and no close friends, she was utterly alone. The freedom she had once cherished now felt like a curse, leaving her with nothing but the echoes of a past she could never reclaim. Each day, Patricia would look at herself in the mirror, and the sight would break her heart. The woman who stared back at her was a stranger, a far cry from the beauty she had once been. Her eyes, once so full of life, now held only sadness and regret. She would trace the lines on her face with trembling fingers, remembering the countless times she had turned down offers of love and companionship, believing that her beauty and freedom were all she needed. Tears would well up in her eyes as she realized the bitter truth. She had spent her life chasing after fleeting pleasures, ignoring the things that truly mattered. The love she had dismissed, the family she had never started, the connections she had never made, all of it had slipped through her fingers, leaving her with nothing but memories and regrets. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Patricia's despair deepened. She rarely left her home, too ashamed of her appearance and too broken by the realization that she had no one left in her life. The mirror became a cruel reminder of all she had lost, and she would often find herself staring into it, tears streaming down her face, mourning the life she had squandered. In those moments, Patricia finally understood the cost of her choices. The beauty that had once been her greatest asset had faded, leaving her with nothing but loneliness and regret. She had traded love and companionship for a life of luxury, only to find herself alone in the end. The realization was unbearable, and each time she looked into the mirror, she cried, wishing she could turn back time and make different choices. But time, like beauty, is something that cannot be reclaimed. And so, Patricia spent her remaining days in quiet sorrow, the once beautiful maiden now an old woman, burdened by the weight of her past and the emptiness of her present. One quiet afternoon, Patricia sat on the porch of her home, reflecting on her life. The loneliness and regret that had haunted her for years weighed heavily on her heart. She realized that she couldn't change the past, but she still had the power to reshape her future. As she sat there, a thought began to take root in her mind. Perhaps it wasn't too late to bring some joy and purpose back into her life. Determined to make a change, Patricia made a bold decision. She would sell all the expensive wigs, designer bags, shoes, clothes, and jewelry she had acquired in her youth. These items, once symbols of her beauty and wealth, now seemed like relics of a life that no longer held meaning for her. She wanted to use the money to do something that would bring her happiness and fill the void in her heart. Patricia carefully gathered all her possessions, selling them one by one. It was a bittersweet process, but she felt a sense of relief with each item that left her hands. To her surprise, the money she raised was substantial enough to fulfill the dream that had slowly taken shape in her mind, to adopt a child and become the mother she had never been. With hope in her heart, Patricia visited a local orphanage, searching for the child who would become her own. As she walked through the orphanage, her eyes fell upon a baby girl with bright, innocent eyes and a sweet smile. Patricia felt an instant connection and knew this was the child she had been meant to find. With the paperwork completed and her heart full, Patricia brought the baby girl home. She named her daughter Patricia, after herself, as a symbol of the new life they were both about to begin. From that day on, Patricia's life was transformed. The loneliness that had once consumed her was replaced by the joy of motherhood. She found happiness in the simple moments, feeding, playing, and watching her daughter grow. As little Patricia grew older, her mother became her greatest guide and mentor. The elder Patricia often sat with her daughter, sharing stories of her past. She told her about the life she had once lived, the extravagant parties, the expensive clothes, the endless attention, and the emptiness that had followed. She didn't shy away from the mistakes she had made, speaking candidly about the choices that had led to her loneliness in old age. "I lived a life of luxury, thinking it would bring me happiness," she would say, "but in the end, it left me with nothing but regrets. I don't want that for you, my daughter. There's more to life than beauty and wealth. Love, family, and the connections we make with others are what truly matter." Young Patricia listened to her mother's story with wide eyes, absorbing the lessons she had learned through her own experiences. As she grew older, she came to understand the wisdom in her mother's words. She was determined not to follow the same path, knowing that true happiness came from love, kindness, and meaningful relationships, not from material things or fleeting admiration. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger with each passing year. Patricia found fulfillment in watching her daughter grow into a kind, thoughtful young woman, and she felt a deep sense of peace knowing that her own mistakes had paved the way for her daughter's brighter future. In the end, Patricia found redemption through her daughter. She had once believed that beauty and wealth were the keys to happiness, but she had discovered that love, sacrifice, and the wisdom to guide the next generation were far more valuable. And in doing so, she had finally found the lasting joy and purpose she had always sought.
Subscribe for more videos.